We're in.
Okay.
Good evening. It's just gone 7 o'clock. You are listening to the Friday Night Football Pitch and myself, Cameron McDonald. As always, my co-host Dennis Stewart. And tonight we're joined by Tottenham fan Steve Hitchin to talk Spurs and generally have a chat in the English football. We'll also be taking an eye on what's happening at West Ham these days, looking at Everton as well, and we'll play our customary look at the Scottish game as well. Dennis, good evening to you. How are you doing?
Good evening, Cammy, and good evening, Steve. I'm
evening,
not that sure if I know you, other than the fact we work together. So, yeah, it just feels as if we're back at work again doing our catch-up calls. But I'm sure we end up talking about football. That's why Steve's on, because obviously we cover it along with one of the other lads in our work. And we find that we do spend, better watch on the directors listening, we do spend the occasional 5 minutes talking about how the game goes. So good to see you on here as well, Steve. You know, you've got plenty to say about the English game, and obviously you're on Team Tottenham. So we'll get into that in a wee bit more depth than we normally do.
Yeah, it seems to be, we tend to be, if we've got English folk on.
Yeah, we've had a few.
Spurs, you know, we've had Burrows on a couple of times. Right. Obviously, Steve on tonight as well. We do look at other teams other than Spurs. Just so happens the folk that we have on the podcast tend to be fans of Tottenham Hotspur. So, Steve, there's been a wee bit of controversy this week surrounding your own club. Obviously, should you finish with 10 men? Should the guy that scored the goal been off the park? Obviously, a wee bit concerned over Ricardo Bentancur as well. So, it's been a busy week.
It's been a good week, yeah. I mean, we actually managed to win, which the last win was a distant memory. So yeah, we actually managed to beat Liverpool. I think only Ipswich have done that this season, and that was it. Nottingham Forest. I think only one of the teams beaten them this season.
Forest have beat them 1-0.
Forest, yeah. It was a good game. We deserved it. Yeah, also managed to keep a clean sheet. Yeah, I thought we deserved the win. I mean, I thought Liverpool were off it against Man United at the weekend, and I thought they was off it against us as well. They didn't look the same team, but. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about Liverpool. I don't know a massive amount about them, but I've heard a few rumours, a few people saying that the manager likes to play the same side in every week, so maybe they are a bit tired now. But there's two sort of average sort of performances in a row from Liverpool. Maybe that was it. But Spurs did well. We got a very sort of makeshift side. I mean, not so much with the midfield and the attack, because I think most of the players that are injured from midfield and attack would be bench players anyway. But the big problem for us is obviously defence. Obviously, massive misses Van der Ven. Mm-hmm. The system that Postecoglou likes to play is very exciting to watch, but it leaves us short at the back. So you need someone with Van der Ven's speed to mop things up at the back. And since we lost Van der Ven, we just haven't got that. So it leaves we concede a lot of goals, but we score a lot of goals as well. I mean, I saw a statistic in the week, someone put up on Match of the Day 2, I think, it said that Spurs had scored the same amount of goals, conceded the same amount of goals as the same point last season. They had the same goal difference, like plus 15, but they got 15 points less, which it really that's down to the fact that the games we've won, we tend to win like 5-0 Southampton, 4-0 Man City, and all the games we lose tend to be by one goal. So we got a massive plus goal difference, even though we've lost 10 games, only won 7. Which is a bit strange, but I know you started the question with should he have been sent off in the week? Yeah, probably. But
it's one of these things. The second tackle definitely was a yellow, and obviously it was on a yellow, but there was a wee bit of dubiety over that first yellow card, indeed, whether that was deserved or not. So possibly the referees decided I'll leave things off a wee bit here and won't book him, you know. So. At the end of the day, he didn't go.
Postecoglou came up with a strange rule, didn't he? Postecoglou came up with a strange rule afterwards, which they did try and look into. That it doesn't have to book him if he doesn't stop something, and that they continue on towards goal and the advantage is played. The ref doesn't have to book the player. It was they showed the rule on BBC Sport this week, but it was confusing. It was very confusing to say the least. But it made up for that dodgy handball against Newcastle at the weekend. Anyway, the weekend before. So.
Yeah. I think though that if you're going to utilise VAR, that was an instance where it could have come into its own when the referees try to play on an advantage. It's not an advantage to the point that the guy scores that should have been off the park.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's even a grey area. I think it's clear cut. The call should have been back when it didn't finalise as a goal. The boy booked and sent off. That's how that should have gone. No continuing saying, well, I played advantage, and you should be instructed simply. The simple rule of the game is it was a booking offence. And if they don't score or capitalise on it with playing advantage, then it's surely got to go back to where the incident was and punish the guy with a booking. Even if they did, I don't know where the ball ended up now, but if you look at where the play stops, they still should have went back and given the booking, because that happens in previous games throughout.
No, I totally agree, yeah. I totally agree.
And they still book the player. But definitely, it's a booking offence without a doubt.
It is, yeah. I mean, when you look at the two incidents in isolation, did those two tackles add up to a red card? I don't think they did. No. But when the referees give them a yellow card for the first one, which was a powder puff challenge, and he doesn't give him a yellow card for a much worse challenge, it just doesn't make it look any better, does it? But
But a lot have said VAR. To be honest, that should be common sense with the referee. It was blatant, and it's not as if you had to look at it 4 and 5 times. So,
it doesn't help when he goes out there and scores 2 minutes later, does it?
That's right.
Possibly the reason VAR hasn't looked at it, Dennis, is the fact that the referee has seen it and possibly judged that it wasn't a bookable offence, So I think there is that thing to be brought into consideration when you're talking about VAR as well, is the VAR will only go back and change decisions if the referee hasn't seen them, So
that leads to me then that they're not joined up in how they're working the game altogether. They're supposed to be off the same hymn sheet, and that definitely doesn't lead to that. I'm moving about here because I've got a dog that's agitated tonight, and he seems to be all over the place.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was unfortunate for Liverpool, excellent for Tottenham. And Tottenham, I said to you the day before, Steve, I says, the way that you actually approach games, Liverpool will not like it, because you're not prepared to sit back and just let Liverpool come at you. You will go at them. And I think that's how it's created and ended up that you have.
Yeah, like I say, it's also down to the fact Liverpool was slightly off it. I mean, we let Liverpool come at us just before Christmas and we conceded 6. So it's also the fact that Liverpool are not quite on the game. I did appreciate that, but we got a lot of youngsters. I mean, our average age must be about 22. I mean, we've got 2 18-year-olds playing. I mean, we got players playing totally out of position. I mean, we bought Archie Gray from Leeds, an 18-year-old, to play left midfield sometime in the next 2 or 3 seasons when he'd matured. And he's spent the whole season playing centre-back.
Yeah, that's right. He played against Rangers.
He's done well, bless him.
I just felt that it's maybe a bit too much for the young guy. When he played against Rangers, I watched the game, and basically I just felt, he'll be a player for the future, but that experience and immaturity was just lacking that a little bit.
I was quite impressed with Rangers that night. I mean, I know you want to talk about Scottish football later, but I was impressed with Rangers that night. I didn't think we were that bad. I thought Rangers were good.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Rangers seem, which we will come on to, they've been blowing hot and cold, and we'll touch on that as we go along, and that'll include the Europa League as well, because obviously their positions are coming up shortly in fixtures.
Yeah, Timo never had a great game, but apart from that, we wasn't that bad. But
it's one of these things. I mean, when you talk about Rangers, it does seem to be the reserve of best performances for midweek and for Europe. Obviously, that midweek thing maybe doesn't apply to Scottish football, Dennis, but it does certainly apply to the Europa League. Spurs have started the Europa League. They started it really well, Steve, but obviously fallen off over the last few weeks. With obviously, as you say, you've got a squad there decimated by injuries, but you've also got a manager whose style of play maybe isn't suited to the European game, in terms of obviously playing that high line at the back, and he's very, very susceptible to get caught on the break with that, So then again, I don't know what Postecoglou's system is suited to, because he's obviously, you get his first side to it, but he's struggling a wee bit in the Premier League as well. Obviously doing better in the Cup, but they're struggling in the Premier League, struggling in Europe. It's certainly not what you'd have expected with the investment this season. You've spent a few quid, bought in Solanke up front, so as you say, you brought invested for the future as well with the likes of Archie Gray too, so
yeah.
What are your expectations for the rest of the season?
I think they'll be okay. I mean, I personally like Postecoglou. I do like the guy. I think I like the style of football he wants to try and play. I know he leaves us short at the back sometimes, but that's why we need Van der Ven. I've said before, he's a massive loss because his speed at the back, mopping up and trying to sort of get rid of the problems that the others are causing. And Romero is also good with Van der Ven. Romero's not as quick as Van der Ven, obviously, but I think he's a really good central defender. And another big loss was Ben Davies, I think, is a useful central defender, but he got injured as well.
Definitely.
So that was another big loss. And then we finished up with Archie Gray playing with Dragusin. I mean, Dragusin's not bad, to be honest. I think he was bought to be cover for Van der Ven and Romero. But he looked useful in the Euros for Romania. I mean, playing for Romania in the Euros is probably not quite as hard as playing in the Premier League. But he looked useful for Romania in the Euros. I thought Dragusin looked a good player. So he's not too bad at centre back. I mean, in the week against Liverpool, we finished up with Jed Spence at centre back. He's our third choice right back. Mm-hmm. So that's how bad things have gone.
How bad things are, yeah. And obviously struggling in goals as well. But Forster's best days are behind him as well, So they're obviously struggling in goals too.
But you've heard me talking about Werner. I mean, he come on 20 minutes to go in that game, and I just don't think that you're never going to be in the position that you'll get up into challenging for Europe if that's how you've got as your backup as a forward line. And
he's still not a Tottenham player. He's a lone player. He's still not owned by Tottenham.
He's a Leipzig player.
Yeah.
But he's still getting game time, which worries me in relation to how do you get to the next level with a player that's basically not producing for you just now. There's other teams doing the same, but I look at this transfer window and I personally think desperately needs a forward that can at least give you some goals rather than being a jersey filler, which to me that's what Werner is. I don't know what's happened to the boy. He's just he's not the right fit for Tottenham. It's as simple as that.
No, it worries me when he starts games. It worries me when he starts games. He's not good enough to start games. He's useful coming on. He's quick and he can take on and get some crossing against sort of a tiring defence. But it worries me when he starts games. I don't want him starting games. But coming on for the last 20 minutes, he should be at his best when he's sort of quick and speedy. But the other problem up front, of course, is on the other side, you've got Heung-min Son. He's not been at his best by a long way this season.
No,
he's been well short of his best. So
he's been a poor player since Kane left, and I know that seems ages ago, but the link up and the understanding they both had was magnificent, and that's when I seen Tottenham at their best. But he's been a shadow of the player that he's been in recent years, and he really dipped this season. And the games that I've actually watched, there are quite a lot of the Tottenham games. I just think that he was a mainstay of that team and somebody that was really good at getting results for you. Just seems to be a shadow of that.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I mean, going back, we've always had sort of 4 or 5 players in the team that have been. I wouldn't go as far as say world class. Maybe Harry Kane was, or close to world class. The only player we got anywhere near that standard now is Kulusevski. Mm-hmm. He's the only player who got anywhere near that standard. I mean, we got decent players. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I really rate Van der Ven. I really rate Bentancur, and the goalie's good as well. The Vicario is a good goal. I mean, the goalie that came in the week looked quite good as well. And against Liverpool, he looked okay for his first game. But the goalie's good. But I don't know. We've
what about Bissouma? Bissouma came from Brighton.
Yeah, he's done okay. He's a bit of a liability. He gets sent off nearly as often as Romero does. But
I recall when he was at Brighton, there was a conversation went on, and basically he drifts in and out of games to the point of concentration. And sometimes when I watch him with Tottenham, he does the same things. He doesn't shut down quick enough. He's dreaming at times, and he gets caught that way. And I think to myself, a good player, but not the finished article. And again, it's maybe an area that he has to improve a little bit more. But you've got problems, Steve, with the fact of the injuries you have.
We've got big problems. Yeah, I mean, we're going to struggle to finish in the top half of the league the way it's going. I know we're still in all the cup competitions, but if you were to say to me which one of them cup competitions do you think you might have a chance of winning, I would say the Europa League is our best chance of a cup.
Yeah,
because I think if you look at, I mean, I know you can't always go by the bookies odds. When we go by the bookies odds, the only other team close to us in the betting is Man United. I know there's some other good teams in it. I think we've got Roma, Lazio, they're in it as well, I think, but they're quite high up in the betting. But Tottenham are actually favourites with the bookmakers. I know that probably no one's betting on the other teams apart from Man United, but no, that would be our best chance of winning a trophy, the Europa League. And that would get us straight back in the Champions League, which we're not going to do by finishing 12th in the Premier League. So,
well, again, you're still in the cups. So
we've got Tamworth tomorrow, so that might be the end of that one. It was Sunday, sorry. Tamworth away.
I was going to bring that up as next. I mean, that's going to be a right hard game.
Well, Tamworth away, and they reckon the ground's like a dodgy second-hand carpet from Carpet Right. So
right.
Honestly, the artificial pitch looks awful. I don't know what they're going to make.
Most of them do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're saying obviously in the Europa League you're looking decent. You're obviously sitting 9th. Man United sitting 7th, and sandwiched between both these clubs is obviously Rangers at the moment. You know, who have actually scored more than either of the two clubs. You know, but what's keeping them above Spurs is obviously the head-to-head and the goal difference, I would assume. You know, so you're actually not in that automatic spot, but with two more games to play.
We need to pick up some more points in that. But we won our first 3. We was doing okay. But then we went to the was it Fenerbahce, the Turkey side, and we looked. We got well. It's a difficult place to go, and we got stuff there. And then we drew with was it Roma? Was it Ranieri's first game? I think. And we was 2-0 up and managed to draw 2-2. So that was a difficult one as well. But I still think we'll qualify. Definitely the top 16, but you'd probably get in the top 8. Really, you don't have to play that other game over 2 legs. So,
but you're only 2 games away from winning a cup. You know.
Yeah, even with a 1-0 lead going, I think Liverpool is still favourites, but we're giving ourselves a good chance. That's the main thing, giving ourselves a crack at it. And to be honest, I don't think it matters to Spurs whether they're home or away or playing Liverpool or Tamworth. They're not going to play any differently. No. So it's going to be the same sort of performers. But I thought they defended quite well in the week. And when Liverpool came forward, I've never seen this sort of with sort of a 4-and-4 block like that before. Normally we're all over the place when teams come at us. So but it looked like we looked quite solid at the back when Liverpool were trying to attack, but which made a change.
If you look at the league position, you're sitting in 12th with 24 points. So really, there's an 11-point swing to get you to fifth spot, which is Newcastle. And you look at these teams that are sitting at the top, you just think there's not many of them are looking really vulnerable now. Chelsea have dropped a wee bit. We're sitting in 4th recently. They've lost 2 games out of the last 4 and drawn 2. And you still feel they'll come back quite strong. Then you look at Man United. Well, we could come on to them in a minute, but they're sitting below you with 1 point of a difference. The casualties of war, I think, if you're looking at probably getting up into that top spot, is Bournemouth, very, very good team at this moment in present. Aston Villa, we'll see how good they are tonight against West Ham, although they have been very consistent. Then you've got Fulham, Brighton, Brentford, and you would assume that out of that pack, Tottenham are capable enough of leapfrogging all of them.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, when you look at the table, when you've got teams like Bournemouth that have got 9 points more than us, it's sort of sums up our season, really, doesn't it?
No, well, you know, they've done exceptionally well. In fact, they're probably a dark horse within the Premiership that you would have put them maybe certainly within the bottom 6.
Where would you put Nottingham Forest at the start of the season?
Yeah. So
where would you put Forest? I would have put Forest in the bottom 5, wouldn't you, at the start of the season?
Oh, without a doubt. No question about it. You had to look. One day I looked and I went, "Oh, where are they? They're sitting up the top of the league. They haven't." I
watched them play the other day. They look decent. They look decent side. Mm-hmm. They played well as a team. But you look at their individual players, you probably wouldn't take any of them. It's just the definition of a good team.
Is the Premier League as good as it was last year? Now, I know Man City's a culprit for not performing, but is it as good as last year? And that's the question,
wasn't it? This is one of those seasons that happens like one in every 5 or 6 when someone different could have won it. I mean, Man City have dropped off. Liverpool have come forward to be the. You think at the start of the season, if Man City dropped off, Arsenal would definitely win it, wouldn't you? You think that would be the obvious choice, but this is one of them seasons. But I don't think Arsenal were as good as last season either. They're not as good as last season.
I think the last time you the Premier League similar to this, Spurs finished third in a 2-horse race.
I keep getting reminded about it.
So I mean, I think that's the last time you had a Premier League that looked like this. The year Leicester won it.
And also,
when obviously they were managed by
as well. Not long after that, when we finished second to Chelsea, it was another weird season as well.
Yeah.
That was another strange one. But apart from that, the stakes, it's normally always the same. It's always City at the top, and either Arsenal or Liverpool following them. And Man United either finishing 4th or 14th, depending on what's going on at the time. But
as
Liverpool,
Liverpool,
it's definitely all over the place.
Yeah, is Liverpool going to win this league, Steve? Because
I was before last week, I'd have said yes.
No. Sorry,
I'd have said they was nailed on before last weekend. But then I watched them play against United. As good as United were, I thought Liverpool were off it, and I thought they was against us in the week. So. And I couldn't see any real reason for it. Everyone's entitled to a bad game, but maybe I read an article that he's played nearly the same 11 all season.
Yeah,
maybe they are knackered. They're going to drop off now, but you can't really go by 2 games.
I think if he gets hit with a few injuries, you might see the real Liverpool and what strength and depth they've got.
Yeah,
and that could be interesting because. The last 2 games, if you look, obviously one against Tottenham will have lost at 1-0. And then if you look at Sunday's fixture against Manchester United at home, what I will say is that is probably the best game I've watched all season. I thought it was outstanding. And all the criticism that Man United is getting and have been getting for all season is more or less in the same vein. You can almost, it's a carbon copy of what we've got up here in Scotland. Is the Rangers scenario. They've been absolutely dire. They played Celtic 10 days ago or whatever, and maybe a fortnight nearly. But the thing is, they're going they blow Celtic out of the water by winning 3-0. Manchester United, unexpected, end up getting a result or a draw, which totally extreme where they've been, and where they'll turn up next, we don't know. I mean,
well, if it wasn't for your friend Harry Maguire. At the end, it would have been. Wasn't for your friend Harry Maguire at the end missing that sitter, it would have been better one, wouldn't they? But
I don't like bringing him up too often, as you know.
No, okay.
Well, Cammy knows that as well.
At the end of the day, you look at that game last week. You've got Liverpool, who are probably the best side in 2 or 3 seasons, and they cannot beat Manchester United, who undoubtedly this is probably. I mean, they've had some dire teams over the last couple of years, but this is probably the worst Manchester United side in a number of years. I think the manager will turn it around there. I've said that to you 3 or 4 times, Dennis. But I mean, you've got a really good Liverpool side there. They are entitled to a bad game, as you say, Steve, every now and again. And I don't think they played badly against Manchester United. I don't think they played badly against Spurs, but the results have gone against them. But I still fancy Liverpool to go in and win that title. I don't see much there to challenge them. I think Man City are too far off the pace. Arsenal are too inconsistent. Chelsea, since they did that drugs scandal over the player, or whatever, it hasn't been that scandalous. But as I say, they've done nothing since that came out. As you say, Dennis, two defeats, 2 draws. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing at the top there to challenge Liverpool. I can't see Forest. Forest, I don't think they'll do in Aberdeen, the equivalent up here, but I don't see them finishing in the top 4, so I would imagine they'll fall away as well. So Liverpool are going to win that title by default, if nothing else.
Yeah, they should win it. I agree they should win it from here, but if they don't win it, it'll probably be Arsenal, which would be a bit of a disaster for a Tottenham supporter, so we don't want to see that either. So I'd rather see Liverpool win.
It's a foregone conclusion then that Liverpool will beat Accrington Stanley on Saturday.
It's easy for you to say.
Yeah, well, it is.
They should do, yeah.
Your name, Dennis.
Sorry, I know. When you're not announcing every week.
And they'll probably get Hamilton in the next round.
Tell you what a great day that'll be for Accrington. Absolutely brilliant.
And Stanley. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah. Stanley's going to be there as well. absolutely magnificent. That's the minnows getting a shout. At Anfield, you just can't envisage that. Seriously. Absolutely amazing. So that'll be a good day out for them.
You might see Slot changing his side tomorrow a wee bit.
Without a doubt.
Steve, you know what I mean? I don't see him playing a full strength side against Accrington, you know. So you maybe see a few French players getting a game in that one.
Yeah.
But moving away from North London to East London, Dennis, obviously something you and I are more through yourself, we got a wee bit of interest in. West Ham sacked Julian Lopetegui, or however you pronounce his name. I don't think that was a bad stab at it. And brought in Graham Potter and Billy Reid. Obviously, a couple of names a damn sight easier to say, that's for sure. Potter's been hanging about waiting for the right club. He's been saying, you know, apparently he's been hanging about waiting for the right appointment. Billy's obviously hanging about waiting to see where Graham Potter's going. The two of them are stepping up at East London. Big rivals to obviously Chelsea, which was their last gig. First game tonight, Dennis, for the two of them.
Yeah, you know, maybe the timing's right for them to go there, because I think if they'd left there and there was a possibility they may have gone to West Ham immediately, then I think that would have been a bad move personally, because the West Ham supporters wouldn't have liked it. It was like they might have thought, oh, we're getting the cast-offs for Chelsea, and there'd have been more pressure on them. Whereas they've had another manager in at West Ham, and it's not worked out. And obviously, he's had a rest, Billy's had a rest, and we'll wait and see how it turns out. An excellent manager, Billy Reid as well as a coach. I'm friendly with Billy. I spoke to him when did I get appointed? Yesterday. I spoke to him before the decision was made, and he says, look, I'm in the hotel just now, and at that point they were having their meetings with West Ham. So basically later on, just a text, and he'll be up to his eyes in it. So basically we will catch up when I let him get his feet under the table with us. So tonight's game will be an interesting one. Expectations for West Ham supporters, I would assume, you know, I know it's the FA Cup, and the question always is how many teams are really wanting the FA Cup. I would think that it would be big on the hit list of West Ham, because they're not in Europe. And to go in there just after 24 hours, more or less, and take a team to Villa, then I think it's a hard task. We'll see if they can turn things round, but if you had the same manager, the expectation right away would be that Villa will win this match comfortably.
Yeah.
Steve,
when West Ham appointed Lopetegui, I questioned the appointment at the time. You know, that's a guy who's hummed and hawed over whether he wanted, I think, the Wolves job at one time or another, you know, so he wasn't very decisive then, you know, so he's waited for the West Ham job, and things just haven't gone his way. Obviously, the last few weeks have been quite difficult, you know, with the car crash, with it losing their star striker. Obviously, one of the academy kids died as well, you know, so he was killed. So Lopetegui's not had an easy time of it, but certainly done a great job as Spain manager. But since then, he's done really nothing, and it was a strange appointment, and it looks as if it's one that's bombed on the back, obviously, Davy Moyes leaving in the summer.
Yeah, they've got some good players at West Ham. I think I'd love to have Jared Bowen at Tottenham. I think he's an excellent player, but they could be doing a lot better. I think obviously they're well below where they should be with the players they've got.
Yeah.
And I think they'll actually be okay tonight. You get this new manager syndrome, don't you? Where something weird normally happens in the first game. But I think they'll get a result tonight. But there's no replays, is there? So it's got to be a result one way.
Got to be a result, I think.
Got to like a finish, yeah.
Yeah. So
I would have said if it had been a league game, a draw. But you can't have a draw. So I'm hoping, for Billy's sake, that they get a draw. It's something that it's always been advantageous for me, because I know Billy, when we go back to playing junior, believe it or not, way back when Billy was 16 years of age, and we've kept in touch. And it's good to follow somebody's career when mine's went down the pan an awful lot earlier than his. So it's good to be, what we say, playing golf and catching up with him every now and then.
Yeah.
So we'll keep our fingers crossed then that West Ham get a result.
Well, if you press the red button, Dennis, you can watch Wickham and Portsmouth on the BBC.
Can you? Well,
Yeah,
okay.
apparently.
Well, I'll think about that maybe.
Maybe the BBC should be talking about pressing red buttons. Let's be honest.
It's not the BBC. What is it? Channel 4, Channel 5? It's. I think it's ITV, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway, it's on live.
Anyway.
It's on live in our normal channels rather than Sky or Virgin or whatever it is. So everybody's got the opportunity to see it, which is good. I think there should be more games like that. Just looking at the games at the weekend, obviously we've talked about Liverpool and Man United having Arsenal. I mean, there's two big guns. One of them's going to get the FA Cup right away. Newcastle, Bromley, I think that's a deal. Crystal Palace, Stockport. Tottenham, we mentioned, is Tamworth. Again, it's a pity that's not at the stadium, at Tottenham Stadium, because, again, what a magnificent day that would be for them. All they can hope for is maybe get a draw, and you never know.
Yeah, I read some of them not allowed to change the home venues anymore. The FA don't allow it. They couldn't. They're not allowed to switch them anymore. But
I think too many small teams. Right. Mm-hmm. Too many small teams. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other one we've got is obviously Man City with Salford City, and the person that will be there of interest is Ryan Giggs, because he is one of the sporting director or director of football there.
There's quite a few of them from the ex-Man United team, isn't there? I think Neville is as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
Neville's there, Beckham's there. You know, they're all co-owners of Salford City.
Yeah, the two, just Phil Neville, Gary Neville, Paul Scholes. I think they're the ones that are all involved with that. But in a day-to-day, I think Giggs is actually hands-on. So that'll be interesting, because obviously I think he's had a bad time yet, whether it's good, bad, or different. I don't know what the outcome is.
That's another thing. That's another thing you need to shy away from. Don't be talking about Ryan Giggs being hands-on.
Okay, but you know what I'm talking about. The bottom line is he will find it difficult to get back into top-flight football, I think. Chelsea have got Morecambe. Another interesting time. I'm just trying to pick out a couple. We've mentioned Liverpool. Birmingham, Lincoln City, nothing else. Again, great ties for the FA Cup. Tuesday, I'm looking there. No, there's none of them that's worth giving a shout. But again, what do you see your thoughts, Steve, on Tottenham? If you're in the semi-final of one cup, is there any reason you shouldn't be progressing well to the latter stages of the FA Cup? Not really, no. I mean, don't forget, Postecoglou always wins a trophy in his second season. He's mentioned it a few times, but I still think our best chance is the Europa League. The FA Cup, there's a lot of, obviously it's only the third round, so all the big best teams are still in it. You always think up. I think they showed. I saw a graphic the other day with the FA Cup. I think only 4 different teams have won it in 20 years, or is it 5 different teams have won it in 20 years, something like that. So it was only different one. There was a few different ones that have won it, but wouldn't it be strange if you actually win 2 trophies? We'll just say the League Cup. We'll call it the League Cup, and you win the Europa League, and you don't even make a chance. I mean, call for Europe. I mean, the way Postecoglou sets us up on the football we play, I mean, we never know what's going to happen. So, I mean, we'll probably win the Europa League, win the Carabao Cup, get knocked out of the FA Cup by Tamworth, and finish 15th in the league. That'll probably sum up Spurs, really. Well, he would say that would stop a lot of people on his case, because he'll never change. He's got his own way of doing it, and the only difference is that you need points on the board. There's no point being entertaining, which they are. Without getting the points, and unfortunately that's the way it is nowadays. Points first, entertainment second, and you'll never get. Like I say, I like him. I'd give him at least to the end of next season. I mean, that'd be his 3rd season anyway, more or less. Yeah. So it's probably towards the end of his contract then anyway. I don't know if he's got 4 years. I don't know what he's got, but the thing is with managers now, it's on a week-to-week basis. Honestly. I mean, I said last week there'll be a manager who'll go before the end of January. I mean, in Scotland, which I still think they will. But there you've got 2 this week. You know, you look at Everton as well. David Moyes looks set to take that job. And I think it's only a matter of due course. But Everton supporters are so difficult to please. Liverpool's always been the team of Liverpool, right? Everton's always more or less taking second prizes. And it doesn't matter what Everton seem to do, they're never happy. I remember because I had a neighbour that supported Everton, and he went down from Scotland down to watch them regularly. His family was there, and he had a season ticket. And he moaned when Moyes was there. Didn't really want him doing the job. They get fed up with managers at Everton very, very quickly. And it's been the same with who went to Belgium. Who was Belgian manager? Sorry?
Roberto Martinez.
Same with him. They wanted them hunted out the door. Now, it's a collective opinion, I'm saying, that I'm hearing that. You know, and they will be very hard to please. And then you're saying, oh, yesterday when I was listening to the radio, oh, David Moyes would be brilliant to bring back. And I'm thinking, you've got really short memories at Everton.
Yeah.
You couldn't get rid of him quick enough. Now, he seems to be the Messiah. But I'll tell you what, I think David would be a great fit for them, to the point they're getting a new stadium. And I think he would actually do well carrying on after this year. And I think he's ready-made again for Everton. Because I thought he'd done a great job, David Moyes, when he was there.
Well, he did well at Everton. I mean, he did well enough to get him the job at Man United, didn't he? So.
Yes, aye. I think he's a good manager. I don't think although he did win a cup with West Ham, I don't think his football was attractive. I thought he had some bad players in the team, but he still managed to win a European Cup. And I think it's a good move for Everton if they get him on board. But they're shambles at this moment in time.
Yeah, exactly.
Club in disarray.
Yeah.
So anyway, disarray.
Yeah, we will sort of drift away from your field now, Steve, just for a wee while, and you can get your tuppence worth in, because we now move to where you are. As I mentioned at the start, you're that far south in England, you're an hour ahead of us. So we'll move on to the Premier League in Scotland. You'll not get a chance, I take it, Steve, to see many of these games, do you?
No, I don't. Like I say, I don't. I'm a bit of a top league follower. I tend to watch a lot of Premier League and a lot of Tottenham and the international games, but I don't watch a lot outside the Premier League. I'm embarrassed to say. I mean, obviously, true football supporters would watch every league, wouldn't they? But
well, if you've got the time, yes. If you've got the time, it's all about time, because it's saturation point. You know, I was counting last week the amount of games we've got in January for Scottish Premier League teams, and I think England's almost the same. It's horrendous. You know, I always believed that there was a winter break. What's happened to that, Cammy? Why is it not there anymore?
Don't have the winter break. The winter break's a thing of the past, I think, and
I know
both sides of the border. You know, even looking into Europe, the European winter break seems to be disappearing as well. But as you say, it's down to time. They're trying to fit fixtures in. They've got the international fixtures, as we've discussed many times. There's too many of them. You get too many cup competitions. What they do is they do away with replays in the FA Cup down south. You know, so I think there's that element there. Is that we're at a stage, Dennis, there's too much football. You know, and I think that's what it is. It's just purely and simply there's too much football in too little times. You know, so something's got to give, and I think if you're wanting a decent product on the park, both at club level and at international level, we need to look at readjusting the leagues. You need to look at readjusting your fixtures, dropping some of the cup competitions, you know, possibly dropping that League Cup. Wait till Spurs win it first of all, Steve, but then maybe look at, you know, dropping your League Cup down south. Dennis, we've got our clubs in the lower leagues. Not only do they have the League Cup, the Scottish Cup, okay, they're both expected to go out of them quite early, but they've got the Mickey Mouse Challenge League Cup trophy, you know, that we invite clubs in from Ireland and Wales, you know, to take part in, just to make them more fixtures, you know, and I don't really see the point to these competitions at all. You know, you've got players there who are, you'll know yourself if when you played, if you can cast your mind that far back, that you get to a stage come the end of the season that you're knackered. Steve, you were talking about Liverpool earlier on, and Arne Slot predominantly sticking to the same squad. You know, that's
we're probably clutching at straws with Liverpool, but we're probably clutching at straws. I mean, if they have dropped off slightly the last two games, they've still been by far the best team in the Premier League this season. So.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it's a double-edged sword, retaining that consistency amongst your players. But there comes a time where they're going to be crying out for a break, and I think there is just far too much football.
See when you go to the likes of, what did you call it? I call it the Challenge Cup. Did you say the Challenge Cup, or did you mention it as something else?
No, it's the Challenge Cup. I called it a Mickey Mouse competition.
Okay. What revenue is that bringing to the Scottish game? Nothing. It's an extra, what you say, stretch on people's pockets to go and watch these non-events when people are not getting a preferred rest. Mm-hmm. But if I can just look at rest, and I go back to this because I've often ranted about it for years, and you know that we do in the radio, Cammy, and I brought it up a couple of weeks ago. We look at the congestion with these fixtures, and then you say to yourself, when are we doing it? We're doing it at the worst time of British weather, right? If we're going to have these fixtures, why could we not be having them in June and July? Personally, I would love to go in June and July in a Tuesday or Wednesday with a short sleeve shirt on, bathe in the sunshine and watch the game. And if it's rubbish, it doesn't matter so much, right? But the bottom line is people having to check the weather forecast to see whether they can travel to matches in the midweek and at an extra cost. And also, I believe that the quality at that time of the year is poorer than you would get in the summer because of the suppleness. Now, I brought up with you during the week, Steve, Tottenham absentees, right? And I'm just looking at it just now. Without going through their names, you've got 8 or 9 here. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Ankle injury. These are the players that are out. Hamstring injury. Muscle injury. Hamstring. Match fitness is the boys out. Hamstring. Now, that suppleness that I think is a lack of that and creating some of that, you wouldn't have that in the summer. And you also find in the winter, and we talked about that, they're hanging about waiting to go on. They go on, ding, and away it goes. So there's an element there that the supporters who are looking for their best players to be in the park are not seeing them because they're all getting treatment. So for the amount of hamstring injuries that Tottenham's got, 1, 2, 3, 4, I've got to question that and say, why is that happening? Somebody's got to look at that. I've never known that before. And in actual fact, I have never seen so many players out injured as I have this season.
Some do play very intense. They do play an intense type of game. There's lots of closing down, fast breaks. Defenders have to recover quickly. There is a lot of. I think Tottenham probably do more sprints than the other team in the league. Was just the way they're set up. But
Steve, it's not physical. The game's not physical anymore. And if you look at Dundee last night playing against Rangers, they had 10 of their first team missing. 10, right? Rangers probably not far behind them. They have about 6 or 7, maybe even more. So you've nearly 2 teams are having to play their second fiddle because of injuries. Why is that? That's something I think people should look into. The reason that there's so many teams carrying injuries, is it because of the climate? Is it because of the training? It's certainly no down to physical activity because physical presence on the park when I was playing is just a non-event. I would beat these boys at 5-3 for a warm-up. The bottom line is they're just not physical anymore. So what is causing simple things that are in the long run?
You could play summer football in the Premier League, couldn't you? Because obviously you've got really pristine watered pitches. They would still be immaculate to play on in the summer. But the lower leagues couldn't play summer football, could they? You'd have rock hard sort of...
No. But Steve, what you've got to remember is if you play summer football, the park would be like a bowling green because it's not getting churned up. What the problem you've got is that if we play football just now, eventually the lower leagues, the pitch gets churned up. And unless you spend a right good amount of money on them in the close season, you've not really gained much when you start. So you find that they're still bobbly and bouncing about come August, September, October, and then you're back into the quagmires again. So it's a vicious circle. But if you only play in the summer, you don't chew parks up. They don't need rolled every day because they're already set. So there's an element there where I could argue all day about summer football because I see the benefits. Also for the clubs, you're not needing floodlights either. And in other cases, you're not needing underground soil heating. And you're not needing artificial surfaces either because the grass has got plenty of growth in it throughout the summer. So there's a whole whole circle of stuff there that I can go round and round in circles with. But you've got dinosaurs that run the game that are not willing to look at it. And we go back, Cammy, when we were doing the radio, Ireland had introduced it a way back, and it was very successful. And I don't know, because I've not looked into it, whether it still continues. But when Ireland actually introduced summer football, I think it went really well. But anyway, it's a different thing.
I don't understand why it wouldn't, Dennis, to be honest. As you say, you'd need to look at what you're doing with your fixture calendar in terms of how do you squeeze in World Cups and how do you squeeze in European Championships. But if there's a will, there's a way.
We have changed.
Again, it's only going to suit us in the UK, because you look at Spain, you look at France, you look into the Italy, some of these stronger nations in Europe who have the climate that doesn't necessarily need a summer football. It doesn't need the football played this summer.
But Scandinavia have a different time as well. And
they stopped for a month, didn't they? Stopped for a month.
Right. So there's an element there where we don't want to exhaust it at this moment in time. We've got tons to talk about. It's just a point that I think when you look at injuries and you look at the sacrifices that supporters are having to do in cold winter weather to go and watch matches, it doesn't mix well with me. We have to move on. If they can bring in VAR, they can change the actual time of when you play.
Yeah.
If they can also use the European Championships, like the Europa League, etc., Conference and Champions League, and rejig that whole thing, you can do the same. Europe, in general, with the exception of Italy or maybe Spain, it's quite northern, and you have a lot of countries that are living in a climate like we are at this moment in time. So for me, I don't think you can beat it. There's nothing better, even as a player, more so as a manager, and you're standing in that touchline freezing.
So, talking of
and the one people that doesn't get considered as a fans.
Sorry?
The one folk that doesn't get considered as a fan. Sorry, Steve, on you go.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, talking of VAR and innovation, what did you think of the referee making an announcement in the middle of the pitch in the week?
I liked it.
Did you like it? I thought it was horrible. Didn't like it.
Steve, I'll give you a background. You can maybe see the hat I'm wearing. It's an old Washington Redskins hat. I follow American football. As Dennis will tell you, he hates me talking about it every week, but I follow American football. So I'm used to that kind of announcement, where you've got the line judges and the umpires giving announcements during the game. As to tell you what the offence was, what the foul was, what the penalty yardage is, etc. So I thoroughly enjoy that, and I'm used to that as a fan of that sport. So maybe that's why I didn't mind that at all.
I only heard it, and I thought, I'm not sure. I think though, if you've got a billboard and it goes up, then that's maybe enough. But to have an announcement, the game's probably started by then. It's just another interruption, distraction. Look, let's get what we've got right first before we start making announcements and heroes out of these guys that are getting their voice over their tannoy. No, for me, leave it at this moment in time until we get the bare bones of the VAR sorted out, because you can't do that. All you're doing is giving somebody else another job when it's rank rotten at this moment in time, because they're useless at it. They really are. I think I would take at least 60% of these VAR guys and throw them in the bin and get people that know about the game in and actually understand what it's about, because it's leaving me now where I don't know what's a penalty and what's not. I know in my day, I look at it and I go, penalty. I don't need VAR. There is an occasional thing when it's maybe a handball, a blatant one, referee should see it. But if you want to split hairs, then you maybe need VAR. But there's decisions that they make ruining the game. People,
I don't understand. I don't understand the VAR offsides. I don't understand how they can be so precise with them. Obviously, the rule for offside is when the ball's played forward.
Yeah,
and so that, I mean, when they draw those lines, sometimes the player's literally offside by half an inch.
Yeah.
So how do they know they've got the exact time when that ball started moving forward? And that ball moving just 2 or 3 inches would make a difference of more than that in them lines.
Well, so
So how can it be that it's not? They should draw thicker lines and have an element of sort of,
Yeah, the impact before the ball leaves his foot.
Yeah,
that's relevant to, as you say, the inch or two that they're offside. Some of them's half an inch. I mean, it really is. I would imagine that they have got a device there that is so accurate. It's a bit like you take the tennis ball at Wimbledon. It's a bit like that, maybe. It's hitting the line. and it's the same coming off their boot. But for me, here's the way I would do it. I would make sure you could see fresh air for offside between the two players.
Yeah, I'll draw thicker lines as well.
Yeah, fresh air. You've got to see fresh air between the two, and everybody can see that, right?
Yeah, I know
it's a full body, but the bottom line is the full body is not even a split second to get past somebody.
No, exactly.
So you look at it and you say, if you can see fresh air between the two players, there's your decision. Instead of these lines that you go, well, I'm still not sure whether he's onside or offside.
Yeah.
Thicker lines, draw thicker lines. If the lines overlap at all, then the striker gets the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go back to we need to cover, because Cammy likes us to cover the smaller teams, which we always get in anyway. More so when we're doing it with Scottish. Andy Millen's on with us at weeks. We have that coverage where it's more maybe Scottish, but great because you're on. We get the English side of it. But if we look at fixtures this week in Scotland, we have a problem up here, Steve, in relation to the performances of Rangers Football Club. They have been a total shambles all season. I mentioned it last week. We'll take Europe out of the equation, and they have basically played 3 games, I think, that's been decent all season. And once again, they went to Dundee last night and drew 1 each. And saying that they're mediocre is praise for them. And the manager has said that he's basically 200% sure that he's got the backing of the board. Well, for me, that's always the kiss of death, because once you say that, you're normally out the door. I just wonder sometimes if he's been a manager at another club. Does he not understand that the performances that they're putting in at this moment in time will not be down to the board of directors that get them sacked. It will actually be the fan base.
Yeah.
Because as much as the board of directors will turn around and say, yeah, don't you worry about it, Philip, you will be here. No, he's kidding herself on. When the board of directors can't even get into the park because they're getting pelters with abuse, the result will be they will be under pressure to get rid of the manager. And I reckon he's only another couple of games away from that. And again, I'm not going to mention he should be sacked or he will be sacked, but he's casting a rod for his own back, because we had this conversation week in and week out over the last month or two that, is he covering for the players? I don't know. I think that he actually believes that some of the players are really good. And that's the problem I've got with him. I think he's delusional that he doesn't know a good player from a bad player. Because the week that he actually got the results against Celtic, his players down. It wasn't his first choice team. And that's when he went and beat Celtic 3-0. And you go into games and you say to yourself, you're not really picking them, they're picking themselves because you've nobody else. And these guys that he's got don't have fire in their belly. We were talking about the game against Hibs, and they ended up drawing against them as well. They had a lead, well in front. Egerman scores 2 goals. He then gets a third eventually because they went 2 in front, and then it was a draw. Then they got in front again, and then the big guy Rocky, which I'll come on to at Hibs in a minute. They ended up that the criticism was, how can you throw away a lead, more or less being at Rangers level, and find that you end up drawing? Well, I put it down to the guy that scored the hat trick. He was through in the last part of the game, minutes, and he had really only to knock it past the goalkeeper, and he screwed it past the outside post. And I thought to myself, nobody's raised that it's your centre forward. Although he scored the hat trick, to win games, you need to complete the simpler things, and he didn't do that. Because I'll tell you what, the big boy, Rocky, Bichiera, where it is, you know who I'm talking about, Cammy? Big lad with the dreadlocks. Well, Hibs need to play him as a forward because he's murder as a central defender. He got caught twice 1-on-1, and I'm not joking, Steve. If you get the chance to have a look at the highlights of the Rangers game, I watched the whole game. Rangers against Hibs, have a look at this big lad at centre half. My word. That is why Hibs have been struggling big time. Yeah, he come off the park a hero because he had a lovely wee touch inside the 18-yard box that set up their first goal. And he had a really good header. and it was really unchallenged in the centre of defence for Rangers to get them back into the game. Brilliant. But see, central defending, my word. Oh, it takes a bit of beating watching this big lad.
Yeah. I mean, Rangers started well, didn't they? The first 10, 12 games, there wasn't much between them and Celtic, was there?
No. But listen, Steve, the first game I thought, oh, good. The two teams that were looking a wee bit, and I've said it every week, was Hearts and Rangers served up some really good stuff in the first match of the season. And I thought, good, that's going to be good. Because Celtic, you don't want Celtic to just run away with it. You want a competitive league up here. And instead of that, no, both teams collapsed. Hearts went out of Europe, and I think it probably drained them anyway. But Rangers, well, you just need to watch this space. Something will happen. And because we've got that many fixtures in the month of January, I would predict that something will happen, certainly within some of these managers, because it's very up and down up here at this moment in time.
Yeah. Looking at them, it does appear there's a few jackets and shingly nails, that's for sure. Philip Clement amongst them, The one thing you could say is maybe David Gray's turned things around a wee bit at Hibs.
Well, again,
there's a lot of managers under pressure.
He's been lucky, but see that defence, they haven't changed. I've criticised them for the last 6 months, Cammy, about the fact that Hibs haven't changed over the last year. And one of the reasons they've been in trouble every week is simply because their defence has been poor. Now, they went in a great run, and I'm just looking at it now. They haven't lost in the last 6. They've drawn the last 2 games. One was certainly against Rangers. Brilliant. But is that by default? I would say no. They've picked it up. They have improved. And defensively, they also must have improved. But the same defence could have ended up getting the manager the sack. And I repeat, you need to have a look at this big guy's antics in 1-1 against a Rangers team.
Yeah.
But it's good to see Hibs again with Hearts. They've still got a bit to do. I think the teams that are going to end up at the bottom is going to be Kilmarnock. Ross County have put up a good showing recently. The last 4 games have only dropped 2 points. Hearts have picked up a bit.
Celtic in the weekend, but
St Johnstone, I think they're really struggling. I would tip them now to be in the position that they'll be maybe taking a drop. Kilmarnock's another one, and I don't think that part lends itself to anything. It looked like an all burnt out carpet they were playing on the other night.
Yeah,
it really was. Artificial surface up here, Steve. We've got this in the Premier League. You would never believe it in this century that we are playing in artificial surfaces in the Premier League. And Kilmarnock's and it's like no grog.
That's to try and allow them to play on, irrespective of what the weather is. But even that doesn't work, because the surfaces are dire.
Yeah, I hope they get what's coming to them, because they have not addressed this in the last 3 years. This should have been addressed. And unfortunately, again, the manager could probably pay the penalty for the pitch and the conditions they're playing in.
Some of these artificial surfaces are decent, Dennis. The one at Falk, that's a kind of slag, it's a really good park. But there's too many of them now have been allowed to really... that's it, to turn, as you say, into that old rug, you know what I mean? So Dennis, we've got a couple of minutes to go. As I say, I think the internet's fading, whether it's your two or whether it's mine in the hotel here or not, I don't know, but very quickly run through the fixtures, and then we'll let Steve get a wee plug in at the end as well, and that'll be us.
Okay, Ross County are playing Celtic at 12:30 tomorrow. Hibs are playing Motherwell 3:00. St Mirren, Dundee United 3:00. Sunday games are Aberdeen and Hearts, and Rangers playing St Johnstone, all 3:00. Then running through it, because again we're jam packed with fixtures. Tuesday's got a game, Dundee Celtic. Wednesday's got Rangers Aberdeen, and that takes us through then to the following week. Again, nice during the week to be watching these matches, although they are a bit in the saturation point. Then we'll see how's Rangers going to fare this week. That'll be interesting. The fixtures in the Championship is, I think there's actually a game that's on tonight, and it's nothing each after 13 minutes. Is Hamilton Partick Thistle. Falkirk
on the artificial surface.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's where Clyde plays, because that's where share the ground.
Tell me about it.
Falkirk will get Queen's Park tomorrow. Sunday is Morton against Wraith. Tuesday is Dunfermline Ayr United, and Livingston are playing Airdrieonians. All right. We get into the fixtures for tomorrow in the First Division. and I'm just looking here. Alloa have got Queen of the South. Yeah, the reason I was looking there was is that these games are off with weather. Cove Rangers, Montrose.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Cove Rangers, Montrose, and Dumbarton are both. They're off, and the other game at 5:30 is Kelty Hearts, Stenhousemuir. Stenhousemuir going really well, and then you look into your league, and you have got Clyde. Second game on the fixture. One game, Bonnyrigg Rose, Stranraer, East Fife, Clyde, Edinburgh City, Peterhead, Forfar, Elgin, and Stirling Albion, Spartans. That's cancelled as well. There's a game on Tuesday, Peterhead, Stranraer. Just quickly fill in on Clyde. This is a history of the last month, Steve, where Cammy goes to the Clyde games and he went and watched Spartans playing Clyde. And one of the centre half from Spartans took a bad injury, breaking his foot badly. He lay on the pitch. I'll just run through it, Cammy, because I've heard it that often. I was at the game.
I know.
He lay on the pitch for the best part of 45 minutes before he got taken to hospital because there was no one, by all accounts, able to give permission to move him because there was an uncertainty of how bad it was. So in a damp winter's day in Scotland at Spartans, that poor lad had to lie there. Now, my belief when we had this conversation was that when I was managing or at any of the senior clubs, I was under the impression that you had to have a doctor in call or one within the stadium. In other words, somebody that you could call in 2 seconds and be around the corner, or it would be at the ground. That was my belief, right?
Yeah.
In other words, somebody should be there. And this doesn't look as if that was the case with the Spartans or even Clyde.
We're unsure. I mean, basically, I got a confirmation from the SFA via the from the SPFL via the SFA, who confirmed that the rules are a qualified medical practitioner on hand. Now, there may well have been there at the game, and they obviously waited 45 minutes for the ambulance to arrive to get the lad to hospital. Might well have been the medical practitioner who says that the player wasn't fit to be moved or was unable to move, it was dangerous to move him, etc. So I'm not very sure, and that's something we'll still to check out with Spartans. I think it's probably best, however, we do put this one to bed, as I say, I'll check it out with Spartans just for my own peace of mind, because it's something, as you say, you've heard it that often, that you can recite it chapter and verse, Dennis, and it's one of these things that irrespective of whether there was medical practitioner on that a lad lay on the ground for 45 minutes with a serious leg injury. Steve, to put the picture.
It may well be that the doctors recommended that they don't move him.
It could well be. We don't know that.
It just seems a long while. Yeah. I mean,
we will check that out.
Heart attacks, people have got to sit in the house for 4 hours. So, maybe it's not a priority for them. That's just the way it is, isn't it? So, anyway,
that's it, indeed.
But my end of it. So, Steve. Your team, where are they going to end up in the division?
In the Premier League, if we get some defenders back, Van der Ven and Romero, we could still finish maybe 6th or 7th. I can't see us finishing. The top 4 is well gone.
Yeah,
top 6 would be our best hope, but more like being realistic, we're getting so far behind now that maybe 7th, 8th, 9th is where we're going to finish. So
yeah. I think that's a hard shift. If you look at the teams that are there, 12, 13, 14 is Tottenham, Man United and West Ham. Three that now, because obviously the change at West Ham, you've got to think would be jockeying for 6, 7 and 8th position, maybe 9. So even getting the top half of that league is going to be tough now.
And two of these clubs that you mentioned, Dennis, have changed their manager.
Sorry?
2 of these clubs that you mentioned have changed their manager. The only one that hasn't is Spurs.
Yeah, well, I'll not change.
No, on the plus side, I mean, they still love Postecoglou, and they still seem to be trying to play. I was going to say playing for him, but at least trying to play for him.
Yeah.
This is the problem with Man United. I don't think they don't play for anybody. And when they played against Liverpool at the weekend, I thought Fernandes looked world class against Liverpool. And I've watched him 2 or 3 games before that. He looks as if he really didn't care.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he played against Liverpool. He's up for it. He looked absolute world class, Bruno Fernandes. And I thought, what's happened?
Yeah,
it's weird. They just don't want to play in the small games. They're not interested.
Let's see how they go on against Arsenal at the weekend.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Anyway, cheers, Steve, for coming on. Really appreciate you doing that.
I was just going to say before we go, Steve, obviously you were very, very quiet there when Dennis and I were discussing. Actually, to be fair, I was quiet. You know what I mean? Trying to get a word in edgeways with Dennis there when we were talking about Scottish football. But I understand that you do have a small involvement in a club who you would say was north of the border.
Oh, no. You're talking about Gretna?
Yeah.
Tom House is your man for that because he's
we do sponsor them, don't we? So
yeah, that's it.
So what you do is, Steve, if you don't mind, do you want to come on the week that Tom's on, which is the 17th, I think, Friday the 17th?
That's just next Friday, Dennis.
That's next Friday. Is that just before?
Yeah.
That was, of course, before the Man United game, and we can have Tom, the four of us on for that next week would be ideal.
Yeah, sounds good.
All
cool.
Right.
Look forward to
it. For that. Yeah,
guys, you have been listening to the Friday Night Football Pitch with myself, as I say, Cammy McDonald, Dennis Newell, and our guest for tonight, Steve Hitchin. As the wee bio underneath my name says, go ahead, like, subscribe to the podcast, you know what I mean? Share it, tell your pals, and we shall see you again because, as always, everything is happening on the pitch. Good night.